Postscript: the end of colonial rule in 194-7 was undoubtedly one of the most important defining moments of modern Indian history. Until recently, historiography of Indian nationalism also located the final moment of its fulfillment in the formation of the nation-state. But the history of nationalism during the British period narrated in the previous chapters is not just the prehistory of the nation-state, but a phase in a continuing process of nation-building. If we identify nation as a space for contestarian, see chapter 4.1, that contest continues into the post-colonial period. The dominant version of secular Indian nationalism as espoused by the Indian National Congress, which came to be identified with the Indian nation-state, failed to muffle other dissident voices or completely erase other competing identities. For no hegemony is ever so complete that it leaves no space for resistance. The most telling evidence of this sustained contestation may be found in the upsurges of ethnic, linguistic and religious nationalisms in Punjab, Kashmir or Assam, in tribal insurgencies in the northeast, in Tamil cultural self-assertion in the south, in the political emergence of the Dalit, in various forms of class struggles and in the articulate women's movements in contemporary India, all representing different versions of the past and divergent visions of the nation. Pakistani nationhood too confronted its greatest challenge in the rise of Bengali linguistic nationalism and the consequent birth of Bangladesh in the East in 1971. Apart from that, the Mohajers, the Baluchis, the Pathans and the Sindhis have continued to offer alternative versions of nation. However, these contesting visions do not necessarily signify a denial of a composite nation at social or emotional level. It is the political relationship between these other forms of nationalism and the nation-state that remains the central problematic of their history. At the dawn of the 21st century, within a context of surging globalization, anyone traveling to South Asia or watching an Indo-Pakistani cricket match would feel the emotive power of nationalism in the subcontinent. But such competitive nationalism or patriotism cannot hide the fact of contestation from within. However, not all of these alternative visions of nation and nationality, as mentioned previously, are intrinsically disruptive of the state, but rather claims to be accommodated and recognized within the nation space. Most of these alternative imaginings of nation do not even lay any claim to sovereignty and seem quiescent to the idea of living in a democratic federal state. One, in our view, what appeared in the pluralist society of India during the colonial period was a polyphonic nationalism, within which different melodies were played, but all of them harmonized sometimes uneasily, and never losing their However, not all of these alternative visions of nation and nationality, as mentioned previously, are intrinsically disruptive of the state, but rather claims to be accommodated and recognized within the nation space. Most of these alternative imaginings of nation do not even lay any claim to sovereignty and seem quiescent to the idea of living in a democratic federal state. One, in our view, what appeared in the pluralist society of India during the colonial period was a polyphonic nationalism, within which different melodies were played, but all of them harmonized sometimes uneasily, and never losing their distinctiveness at various historical conjunctures, in common opposition to colonial rule or in disapprobation of various aspects of its unwholesome impact. The process of nation building was far from over in 194-7, as the relationship between those divergent voices and visions with the structures of the nation-states remained the central problematic of post-colonial history. What we witness in post-colonial India is a continuing contest between two forms of nationalism, which Clifford Geertz would call civic and ethnic nationalism, one motivated by the desire to build an efficient, dynamic modem state, and the other woven around. To quote Yeats again, the assumed givens of social existence. We may add here that such cultural identities assume the character of non-negotiable value only within specific political contexts, created by such factors as subordination to an alien civil order, extension of democracy, fierce contest for resources and political power, the resultant creation of a sense of relative deprivation and the perception of domination of one group by another. Atul Kohli has argued that, in an established multicultural democracy of the developing world, such ethnic conflicts will come and go. Indian democracy has in the past shown its resilience and capacity to absorb and accommodate such movements, whose trajectories so far resembled an inverted U-curve. 3 At the same time, such movements are also expected to contain the aggressive homogenizing tendencies of the state, impel it to respect India's cultural pluralism and thus ensure greater harmony between the state and civil society. Notes 1. Oman 2000. 2 Yeats 1994.